Hello. Well, I've decided to make a tier list video. Um, this is gonna be for solo bossing, so if you know a class that's very good in parties, but it's not where you think it should be, just keep that in mind. And, well, I'm not very used to making videos like this, so please bear with me, and it is very recommended that you stay until the end of the video. Well, let's get started. Well, first we have one of the most bandwagon classes in all of GMS, Kanna. And while most of you are probably expecting me to put it all the way up here, um, in reality, again, this is a solo bossing tier list. So it actually goes all the way down here. And you might be wondering why. And I mean, just think about it for a second. Um, so you have a bunch of classes like in a party, right? And maybe they perform well together, maybe they don't, but once you take all of those party members away, Kanna loses 25% final damage, and, well, why would you, like, main this class when you can just take a 5k stat mule with you? No need to play this class. And, uh, the best DPS method for it nowadays pretty much forces it to turn into a blaster, so you're also gonna break your hands. So very not recommended. Alright, next on the list we have Mercedes. Well, what do I think about this class? Well, I think I would go somewhere around here. Um, it's pretty much the best class in the game, you know? It has like great aesthetics, very fluid to play, very fun to play. Probably some of my most fun experiences have been on this class. Just it's very rewarding when you outplay something, and uh, most thief classes have something called Shadow Partner, which I mean doesn't quite double your damage, but I mean it's pretty close. And what Mercedes has during its burst is it summons multiple Shadow Partners, and then it also has other summons that like hang out beside it, and then has another V skill which summons goons. So, I mean, and then it also has a unicorn. So at the end of the day, when you're in a boss with a Mercedes, like it's basically 10v1, and that's not very fair. So, I mean, I think would go up there. All right, let's see. Next up we have Iran. Think about Iran. Well, Iran's it can be a pretty decent class, but as a really annoying combo system, and when you're bossing alone, you don't really want to be thinking about that stuff. You want to be like focused on the boss itself. Just too much distraction, you know. A lot of revamps could be done with it. I mean, I know they made it a little better recently, so otherwise I would have put it down here, but yeah, that's what it is. Let's see. Next up we have Arc. Arc probably goes around here as well. Well, it has a pretty cool burst, you know, it has like a iframe, but at the same time, have you ever played an Arc off of burst? Well, if you haven't, I'll just let you know that it pretty much does nothing, and it's also like a 4-minute rotation class, which means it doesn't really fit in with the meta nowadays. Like, I mean, it has some skills that are in a 3-minute cooldown, but for maximum effectiveness, you know, you're gonna want to pop everything together, and 4 minutes kind of like really ruins everything. Yeah, that's the case with Kanna too, which is also why it's down here. Just like, I mean, you're bursting like way less in an extended boss fight, let's say you're a solo in Black Mage, and you're a 4-minute class, well, you get 15 bursts, but if you're a 3-minute class, well, you get 20. So, yeah, 4-minute classes just aren't really it. Alright, next up we have Battle Mage. This class, just like Kanna, is also notoriously good in a party. I mean, you have like your auras and stuff that comes out to nearly like 20% more final damage for like all your party members, and it applies to yourself as well. But I mean, just sort of alone, like, I mean, it's got some damage buffs recently, but I think it's still a little bit lackluster. So I mean, put it around here, but definitely a lot better than before. Alright, well, next we have a Blaster. What do I think about this class? This class, well, you better prep to buy a new keyboard, because it's not gonna last long with this. And I mean, a lot of the mains argue that it can be pretty rewarding to play it, but like it's just so many inputs for such little gain. And I know it's near the top of the DPS charts at almost all the time, but that's if you're playing at peak performance, and that doesn't really happen. I've seen maybe like 1 or 2 people that can actually play it properly. Okay, next up we have Kanna. Well, basically the same story as Blaster and Kanna, but you've got Dark Sight, and you've got like 10-second iframe, so probably go around here. There's a lot of damage, but I mean, again, you're gonna need another keyboard if you're playing one of those 3 classes. Let's see. Next up is Evan. See, this class is pretty solid. I mean, sort of the same story as Mercedes. I mean, it's not 1v1 when you're against a boss. It's like 2v1. I mean, and you actually control and pretty much attack with both your character and the dragon at once, and that's pretty good. And as for other things like its burst and stuff, I mean, it's a 3-minute class, so you know, that's a lot better. And as like a huge ass laser that like looks really cool. So I don't think we can go around here. I mean, they could use a little bit more damage. So yeah. Next up is Ilium. To be honest, I don't know as much about this class as I should, but it's not as like uniform as a lot of the other classes. Like, I know you have to like charge up your burst properly, and it's like a little weird, you know, to go for like CD skip on certain things, and then maybe you can like burst again, but it's not like the most amazing. Like, I've seen some pretty solid play, but even at like peak performance, it doesn't quite match up to some of the top tier classes in the game. So it's like mid tier. It has like some strengths, has some weaknesses. I mean, flying is definitely like a plus, but yeah. Alright, next up we have Kaiser. Kind of same story as like Ilium and like sort of like Iran. Yeah, you gotta like charge up your burst. Yeah, I'd say it's more like Ilium, but it's also a bit like Arc in sense of like when you after you untransform, like from the dragon form and shit. Yeah, you're just kind of sad. Just have some good things about it, like you can telecast, but yeah, not too great. There's some like commands you can use as well, but you know, you don't really want to be thinking about that when you're like soloing stuff, so not too great. Next up is Mechanic. Alright, well, okay, Mechanic used to be like notoriously bad. You had like a giant hitbox. You're like super clunky, you're like super slow, you couldn't like dodge anything, so you kind of just stood there and died. Since then, they've made a lot of changes. So, well, they decreased its hitbox size and they made it easier to use. And of course, it still has like its portal thing, so you can just instantly portal to the other side of the map. Like in Black Mage, you can like use certain things while you're ducked. Like I think like the missiles or something. And correct me if I'm wrong. You have a really cool strong burst that's also an iframe, and that's really really valuable. So yeah, it's actually like really solid now. It's not like top tier, but I'd say it's pretty up there. Like only reason I'm not putting like really high is because there's still like a lot of setup and that can be a little bit slow. So I think I'll put it like around here. That sounds about right. Okay, next up we have Pathfinder. Yeah, uh, I mean, if you ever played Pathfinder or like grinded it to 200, or you've like played a Phantom with the Pathfinder skills, then you basically know that besides like one or two things, like the majority of the time you're basically like a one button class, and your ease of execution, the like your realistic damage, not where you are on the DPS chart, is very very high. So I actually think it's a really good class, and I'd like to put it probably an A tier. I think it's about right. I don't think it's like S, because I mean it's not like crazy damage like Mercedes. Like, have you seen its burst? Like, you got some like crazy shit. It comes out in 7 seconds, and you have like 3 shadow partners. I don't know who else has that. Yeah, sorry, we're talking about Pathfinder, but yeah. Anyway, yeah, I think it goes around here. Next up we have Phantom. So Phantom is kind of interesting because this class is basically impossible to kill, like in most situations. Like if you're dying on Phantom, I'm gonna be honest, you're kind of bad. You have like a 30-second iframe that also does quite a bit of damage. You got like Final Cut, you got like Dark Sight, and then if that's not enough, I mean, you can still like heal and stuff like that. So like besides that, like, you know, oh yeah, you can also steal Sacro. So like survivability is like really good. Unfortunately, has some major weaknesses, like during its burst, which also does a decent amount of damage, like for 7 seconds. You aren't actually iframe, and you actually move slower during it, so you're like very susceptible to just dying, which is really really bad. When you switch skills, they have like a 30-second cooldown, and that's also really annoying. And that's not too great either. All the skills you steal have like increased cooldowns, and then the biggest thing is after those 7 seconds, like after you pop Joker, you basically do no damage. Like there's actually like a meme gif on the internet of like a cat using melee and it just hitting ones. The skill's nicknamed Wet Noodle by a lot of the community, and it also kind of looks like one. I personally think it looks pretty cool, but you're literally not doing anything. So I mean, you can survive as long as you want. Like you can time out the boss, but it's not gonna die. So I mean, I don't really know why you would made that. Buff Phantom, please. Alright. Next up we have Shade. Jade's a pretty well-rounded class, I'd say. Has like, I'd definitely say its survivability is pretty high up there. It's kind of like Phantom tier, except you don't have all of those iframes. Like you have, it's on like a longer cooldown. Um, its damage is like okay. It's also like a, it has like a lot of 2 minute cooldowns, so you can burst on 2 minutes, and that's like good and bad. Like it's good because I mean, yeah, sure you can burst more, but it's bad because 2 minute classes traditionally, just so they're not giga broken, you have to make them do a little bit less damage than everybody else most of the time. So it's a little bit lackluster. So yeah, they don't do too much damage, and they're lacking an up jump. Like I know this comes soon, but it's not here yet, and that's pretty bad. So while I would put it like higher up, I think it'll go around here. Like I mean, it's not a wet noodle like Phantom, so I think that's about right. Let's see. Next we have Wald Hunter. Wald Hunter actually got some huge buffs a couple months ago. So, before those, I would have actually put it here, but now I'll put it, I think somewhere around here, because, I mean, their damage is a lot better now. The Jaguars used to be like really, really stupid. They've done some things to try and make that better, like maybe like decrease the spawn. You can like resummon them and hope for like better RNG. Yeah, just you know, and a lot of like QL stuff here and there. Iframe got like reduced cooldown, so yeah. So I would put it higher up, but just like Shade, it's also a 2 minute class, so it could be even higher, but not really. And I mean, also the Jaguar problem isn't completely fixed. There's a Korean video out there of where it's really well edited. I don't remember which channel it was on, but it basically shows the Jaguars and like as if they're in a circus. Like you have Jaguars jumping through hoops and stuff, and it's really funny. I boss with a friend who's a Wald Hunter pretty often, and yeah, sometimes I just see the Jaguars and they're just like gone. So yeah, fortunately I can't put them any higher right now, but yeah. Next up we have Wind Archer, and well, have you ever heard of a class without a burst? Because here you go. This class basically has no burst. I mean, you got like some shit every 2 minutes that increases your crit damage by a bit, but in terms of like got any cool like burst skills or like crazy final damage buffs, like no, you don't. And on top of that, like your goddess blessing is both underwhelming and on a 4 minute cooldown. So even every 4 minutes, like you pop your burst and you're not really doing much more damage. And I'm sure the community would agree with me on this one. Like this class is in need of major buffs. Like you don't die, but you also don't do anything. Like I've heard stuff like, oh, yeah, maybe we did like 20-30% more final damage to match up to other classes, and I mean, it could be right. Yeah, yeah, this class definitely needs buffs. Yeah. Next up we have Zero. Kind of suffers from the same issue as Wind Archer, but Wind Archer is already really hard to die on Wind Archer, but it's like really, really hard to die on Zero. And I mean, guess looks a lot cooler. I think it has a little bit more of a burst, but not too much more. You have like more utility. Yeah, and once again, it's a 2v1 when you're against the boss, so that's a bit of a plus. But besides that, I see Zero and Wind Archer is like pretty similar, but of course they're like different class trees. But yeah. Next up we have Adele. A lot of people say this class is really broken. Yeah, I don't know about that. I received some nerfs a couple months ago, and while I used to kind of do everything, uh, it had like an iframe on a really low cooldown. They threw that shit in the gutter. So now you're just like kind of like there, and your old iframe only blocks like one thing, I believe. So that's like really bad. You can't really abuse it anymore like you did before. There's like a lot of gauge management, like gotta like manage all the swords. Yeah, and I mean, while it looks really cool, no one really likes to do that. Like, it's really annoying. So yeah, I'd put it like down there. Gauge management's like really annoying. Like it's not like it's not even like Kaiser or something which is slightly higher, where like it's full and then you can pop it. It's just like you gotta actually manage it. Okay, next up we have IL. Oh no, sorry, we have FP. Well, IL's next, but this class is known for doing a lot of damage, but I mean that's basically all it does. Its survivability is like trash. It's kind of annoying to play. Like, gotta keep up like 200 debuffs. That's not really too fun. I mean, a lot of people stick with it anyway, just because it outputs a lot of damage. But yeah, yeah, okay. Probably around here. It's not like this bad, but yeah. Okay, now we have IL. I think we pretty much put IL in the same place, honestly. Like, it's an Explorer Mage, you know, you don't have an up jump. I think that comes later with the rest of the Mage. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's not too bad. It has like a little bit more survivability than FP, but does a little less damage, I think, or around the same. So put in the same place. While I do think like in many aspects it's better than FP, the bad thing about IL is that its burst is really reliant on positioning. Like, I know there's a couple of videos out there of them like nuking like Culver or Slime, but that's because they're placing their burst in a very specific place, and if you don't have it in that specific place, the damage drops off a lot. So that's not too great. Alright, next up we have Beast Tamer. Okay, this class has a lot of the same pluses as like Mercedes. I mean, you summon like a whole squad to sort of like gangbang your enemy. Yeah, it's like 5v1. Yeah, really good. It's also a non-KMS class that has a lot of like buffs and debuffs, and usually that when it's non-KMS, it means there's a lot of wonky interactions with things. So yeah, you know, it has like the bear has like a knockback and like pull in sort of skill. Yeah, it's like a pull in sort of skill, right? But thing is, that skill affects everything, so you can like vac Saren and Black Mage towards you, and no other class can do that, like at all. Like, say you're doing Burst Strat and Black Mage P3, you have like the BT jump over, boss gets dragged to the corner, well, just suck it back to the middle. Like, that's it. Like, that's so broken. And if you do stuff like Hard Damien, you know, you're in phase 2 and you're like trying to kite the balls and you're having a really sad time. Well, Beast Tamer just goes in and they can actually kill the balls. Like they're just gone, and then you just hit it for free. Can also do things like, I don't know if it's been patched, but in Hard Lucid P1 you can like, I think, kill the stem thing that she's sitting on or something like that. I think gets rid of a lot of the stuff. So yeah, it's pretty good. Alright, next we have Bishop. Well, obviously compared to its other Explorer Mage counterparts, it does a bit less damage, but dying, not really an issue on this class, and it sort of blocks a lot of things that would one-shot you, like Lotus Balls, like Screen Crack, and I mean, just overall you have like a lot of tools. You even have like extra like drop rate and stuff for yourself at the end of the boss. Like that's like a lot of, yeah, that's just really good. Yeah, probably put it around like up here. Yeah, I can put it up here. It's used to be like really, really low damage. I mean, currently it's not like the highest, but it used to be like the standard on all the DPS charts at like 100%, but other classes have overtaken it, as in like they're lower. So yeah, okay. Next up we have Blaze Wizard. Yeah, this class is honestly kind of ridiculous. I mean, you can like, your burst suspends you like wherever you are, so like you up jump and use it in the air. Well, now you're just bursting in the air, you know. Like say during like Black Mage, like purple meteors drop, you can just jump up and like burst and pretend nothing's happened. You have like a flash jump, which most other mages don't, and it's one of the strongest flash jumps in the entire game, so that's pretty ridiculous. Your main attack can be launched in any direction, and you have like 100% uptime like circle that gives like a lot of damage and attack speed, so that's just really good. Oh, and you have like a teleport that you can place down and it goes to literally wherever you set it. So yeah, it's like a last resort sort of button. So I would put it here. Like, I think it's really good. Okay, next up we have Bowmaster. Okay, Bowmaster is actually like pretty good. Again, it's like one of those like 2-minute classes, so its burst like a little lower, and it's a little wonky because, you know, you have like 3-minute goddess, 2-minute cooldown, so it's not like the highest damage, but it has some, so it's not going to be like around here, but there's a lot of, you have a lot of lifesteal, like you basically can't die. You summon like 2 goons for you with your latest V skill that it's basically like, oh, even if you die, like one of your goons literally takes a death for you. There is a emote in the Bowmaster Discord that's literally like, die for me. I think it's really funny, but it's quite accurate. So even though the class doesn't have like a true iframe, it basically tanks whatever. So in a sense, you basically have bod without having bod, as long as you don't die like too often, which is again really hard, because on top of that and the life drain that you get, I mean, you also have like pretty good mobility, like you can use like covering fire in the air and stuff, and you also have like 100 passive status resistance just from attacking things. So if you're a Bowmaster, you've ever gotten Curse in Black Mage, you know that thing lasts for like half a second before it goes away. So yeah, it's like pretty good, you know. Good survivability, not like super high damage. Put it mid tier. Yeah. Alright, next up we have Buccaneer. Oh boy. Oh, what do I say about this class? Yeah, so this class actually goes all the way up here. Why? I mean Buccaneer. It's basically Goku, and as you know, that guy like never dies. You're basically Super Saiyan. You have plot armor. I don't think any other class in the game has plot armor like that. So yeah, it's pretty up there. You also like zoom through maps. Like your mobility is so big. Yeah. Next up we have Cannon Master. No, pretty good. Their damage isn't like super high. Might get buffed soon. Well, I mean it does, but I mean that's not very relevant right now. As crazy mobility in every direction. Like, you can actually jump over like Black Mage Phase 1 statues, which is absolutely ridiculous. If you're in Saren and you're in Dawn, you just fly across the map. You have nothing to worry about. You can even like backblast in the air if you gotta stop suddenly. Yeah, and well, I mean, you got like bullet bills, right? So it's like really good. So you can like save all 3 charges and launch all 3 at once and get like a crazy burst that does a lot of damage. Unfortunately, there is still some annoying setup involved. Like you can't launch all 3 at once as of right now. So it's a bit annoying. Leaves you susceptible to death when you do that. Its iframe, well, it's on a 30-second cooldown. It's a little weird. Like it has some cast time. You gotta like aim it, and it also has like damage. So if you're using it purely as an iframe, you gotta trade off some damage. And of course, I said the damage isn't the highest right now. So I would actually like really like to put it in S, but I can't quite do that. So I think I'll put it somewhere around here. I think that looks around right. Next up we have Corsair. Alright, I actually think this class is really underrated. It's like absolutely ridiculous in Korea right now, but we don't have those buffs. But currently, I mean, what does it have? It has like a glide, it has like short cooldown, like iframe, it has like really good mobility, it's like backstep. It's like pretty nice damage too. Some of the downsides it has right now, it's like there is like a lot of like summon stuff you gotta keep up, like gotta keep summoning those ships and some like the octopus thing. There's like a lot of upkeep, and when you have the ships out, you're like in combat, I believe, so you can't like swap stuff. So that's really annoying. And its cooldowns are like really wonky. So you have like cooldowns you have like 180, you have like 30, you have like 45, you have like 75. It's really weird, and unfortunately because of that, I have to put it around here. Like if they had like all the same cooldowns, I would probably put it like here, but it's really weird. Yeah, I actually have one, and I have a lot of fun on it. So yeah, like I wish I could put it higher, but I can't. So this is where it goes right now. It's going to be higher in the future, so don't worry. Okay, next up we have Dark Knight, and well, what can I say about this class? It has a very simple playstyle, which means it's not terribly difficult to pick up. Got a lot of buffs recently, so it's like decent survivability. Its burst looks really cool, does quite a bit of damage, and when you die, you don't die, which means like yeah, you basically get rewarded for dying. You die and then you get like, oh, more than 1 minute long iframe if you roll for buff duration, which like I think, which is like what every main does. Um, yeah, I don't actually have like that much experience with this class. You could probably tell the second I said that, but yeah. So yeah, you die and then you just hit the boss for like a minute straight and uninterrupted. Like the damage you do on a dojo dummy that everybody like fawns over, like that's your actual damage because you just don't stop attacking. Like not many other classes can do that. Like maybe like Paladin, which I mean I'll be getting over later. Maybe like Phantom, but again, Phantom's a wet noodle, so it doesn't apply as much. So yeah, this class is actually really good, and I think they're getting buffed even more in the future, which is again not relevant, but something to look forward to for Dark Knight mains. Next up we have Dawn Warrior. Well, what can I say about Dawn Warrior? Dawn Warrior is like a Mercedes without like the 10 summons. So basically like Mercedes, but without all of its good qualities. You have like a sun that looks pretty cool, but compared to summoning like 10 other things, it's a little bit lackluster. When you stand in place, and attack, like you're not even standing in place. Your character moves up and down, and that's really annoying. Like they added super stance to it recently, which is pretty good, but in terms of like avoiding certain things, like let's say like black mage push and stuff like that, you are punished a lot more. And your only true iframe is like the sun thing, and that's like your big burst, and that's every 3 minutes. Oh, and your goddess is 4 minutes because you're a sickness knight, so it doesn't match up. So class isn't too good, but does like decent damage, but yeah, it's not like that rewarding, so to put it pretty low. Actually like a lot of experience on this class. I made it in Burning World. Probably not that many of you know about it, but some of you will. I went really hard on it, and I actually enjoyed it a lot, but you know, there's some changes that it needs. Alright, next up we have Demon Avenger, and oh man, this class is actually like absolutely ridiculous. It's like he's like his brother, but like, or I mean, they're the same guy, but like he's DS but angrier. Yeah, as like crazy lifesteal if you're actually standing on the boss. I guess this isn't like super well known because there aren't that many DA mains on there, but like if you're actually just standing on your target, your damage is absolutely ridiculous. And you also like can't die. Like there's a video of a Demon Avenger doing Hard Will out there, and Hard Will Phase 3 is generally known as one of the harder content in this game. It's got nerfed a lot, so it's a lot easier now. I actually think it's like really easy, but that's a lot of people still don't think so and get stuck, but I mean that's not that relevant to this. But anyway, yeah, so there's a Demon Avenger video of him doing like Phase 3. He like basically like doesn't die. He just stands on the boss the whole time. He basically can't get killed. He tanks White Eyes and just keeps on attacking. Like you have permanent damage reduction. Like permanent. Like it's there's not like really a criteria you have to fulfill to get. You turn the skill on and you get the damage reduction. Like, yeah, I don't know what else to say. Next up we have Demon Slayer. Well, like I just said, he's like DA but less angry. This class is generally known to be quite good by the community, but in reality, I mean, if you've ever really played it, you know, it has some major problems, like major bugs. There's like a few like DC bug it had like before. I actually had a lot of DC bugs before. It's farming and like grinding isn't like that great. Like reach isn't that good. You'd have like a glide and stuff like that, but when you attack, it's can be like really slow and clunky. Like you have a pretty responsive dash, like when you use it, but if you want to use it again, like a second time in quick succession, you have to wait for like 2 seconds before it goes off again, even if you're like spamming the key really hard. And some demon slayers have decided to use like a macro, like no, not like a illegal keyboard macro, but you know, like the in-game thing. Like they'll put dark thrust on a macro key like alone, and for some reason that makes it better. But you still gotta wait like 2 seconds, even with it on that. Yeah, its attack pattern is pretty clunky, so sometimes it can be difficult to dodge things. Yeah, and that's on attack speed 0. Like if you've ever played on attack speed 2, like you decide to not pop a green pot for whatever reason, I don't know why you would do that to yourself. This class is actually terrible. Like for a while until it got some buffs and like KMS, might have been mistranslated, but somebody translated to me as the homeless class, and I mean, I think that kind of fits. You know, most of you don't care about like the lore; it's not written very well, but I mean, he is like literally homeless. So yeah. Next up we have DB, and thieves are known for their burst, but have you ever met a thief that doesn't have burst? Well, here you have DB. It will go around here because its survivability and difficulty of execution is very low. Like its survivability is high and it's not that hard to pick up. In terms of getting your damage out, like even if you play really safe and you're not using Phantom Blow much, like as long as you use like Karmic NATO every couple seconds, you're pretty good. But again, yeah, damage is lackluster. You're technically a 3-minute class, but Tempest is every 90 seconds, and it seems like they compensated for that by just making the burst trash since you have it up so often. It syncs up pretty well with like Canadian if you're liberated, but yeah, it's not too great. It's like kind of lackluster. Could do a lot better. Yeah, like it needs more burst. I used to always say, oh man, this class is super busted, it should go in like SSS tier. Then I realized that even like peak dual blade play, like once other people of other classes started to peak too, they just started getting massively outperformed. So it's dropped a lot, but I mean, in terms of like solo bossing, it's still like a solid class. Just if you're like a sweat, you're not gonna achieve quite as much as some of the better classes. Okay, now we have Hayato. Kind of suffers from the same thing as like DB, to be honest. It doesn't, or what would a better comparison be? Well, I definitely talked about it earlier, but basically this class has no burst either. I mean, looks really cool. It's like a non-KMS class. Yeah, but yeah, okay, so again, it's a non-KMS class, which means there are going to be a lot of problems with it. Most notable one being like you literally exist, and if you're using like all of your skills, it just skyrockets you to mem leak really fast. Like I had a friend who was clearing Saren, and he literally just couldn't use one, or might have even been like 2 of his skills. Otherwise, he would just DC. And There's like a lot of damage too, so the fact that you couldn't use them, yeah. It's also Sengoku class, so like Kanna as a 4-minute cooldown Sakuno, so what burst it does have is still like trash, unfortunately. Right, next we have Hero. There is like a meme associated with this class, which is why does this class keep getting buffs? It's maybe like it's like their director's like girlfriend or something means Hero, but in reality it kind of does need like some of those buffs, because even though like a lot of people say it's like really good, it does get outperformed by a lot of the top classes. You gotta like upkeep a lot of stuff, like your debuffs and everything, and again that's very annoying. So yeah, I don't really know what else to say. Ease of execution isn't like, at least besides the upkeep, doesn't seem like too difficult, but at the same time I've seen a lot of like very low performing heroes, so I think it might actually be like a lot harder than we give it credit for, or a lot of the community does. So I'm gonna have to fortunately put it down there as well. Alright, next we have Hoyoung. Alright, look, it's a combo class and it's a gauge class. Like, dude, nobody wants to play this shit. Like, okay. Yeah. Like two of the worst possible things you could have in a class. I don't know what else you want me to say. Next we have Jet. Jet used to be like literally a meme. It was like 30% weaker than every class in the game except pre-revamped Kanna and like pre-revamped Beast Tamer, which I mean all three of those classes are very different now. Jet is very different. Like now gets like has like actually not completely trash damage, and it literally summons like a ship, and it's non-KMS, which means it has like a lot of interactions that just shouldn't exist. So it had like a burst key down exploit at some point, which actually just brought it to like top tier damage. Got patched, so otherwise if it hadn't gotten patched I would have put it here, but yeah, I'll put it around there. I mean, so you have like a ship now, has like 1000% HP, so you basically on bod, and you can just fly above a lot of the bosses and keep on attacking. Like in Saren, you just fly above her jab range and you just hold down your attack key and just attack for like a minute straight. Black Mage P1, you fly above the statue, you just attack for like a minute straight. Like I don't know what else to say. Like it's actually really nice. Yeah. Next we have Kane. Alright, so Kane, I mean, you look at the design, like it's basically a thief, but it's not. But I mean, it has a lot of aspects of like the thief. Like has like okay cooldowns, it has like edgy looking skills, it has like a really nice burst actually, but it's an archer, which means if you decide that you wanted to main a thief, but you wanted it to like not exert as much like funds and effort, you play Kane, because Dex is like half the price of luck. So yeah, not really applicable towards like reboot, but I mean, yeah, I think it's pretty good class. Next we have Laura. Unless I'm blanking out right now, this is our newest class, and I mean, what can I say? It's like a very happy, like relaxing sort of class. What do you do during you basically jump around and like collect the plants, or like plant the plants. So you basically kill bosses while like just jumping around and having fun. So Yeah, yeah, I think it's really good. Uh, and it does have like some of those like burst skills where like you have like a bunch of shit that just comes out and like nukes the boss like in like 1 second. So I'd say that goes up there too. Um, Next we have Luminous. Okay, I actually think this class is like really good. It has some downsides though, like outside of equilibrium, the TP is pretty bad, and you have to like manage like the bar and stuff. But when you are in equilibrium, oh, dude, you hit hard, like, and the TP is insane. So yeah, and equilibrium uptime is pretty high if you have like any resemblance of hands. So yeah, um, yeah, I would put it here. Like I really would, but like the off equilibrium actually knocks it down a lot. But I do think it is actually a really good class to main. Alright, next up we have Marksman. Can I say about this class? Well, there's a lot of good things about this class. I mean, it has like a pretty long like iframe that does like a lot of damage. That's like it's got like a lot of buffs over like the last couple of years slowly. Like it used to be really bad. Used to have like a lines problem. That's not the case anymore because I mean damage cap's 150 bill now. You have like a puppet, which puppet is like giga busted in bosses. Like there's a video of a certain marksman doing like I think it was like a 9-minute will phase 3 hold, which is pretty nuts. Um, I mean he's a good player, but like it wouldn't have definitely would not have been 9 minutes without the puppet. Like it would have still been long, like I'm sure. But again, like the skill is very good. Yeah. Wind Archer has it too. Dual Blade has it too, but I mean this class actually has a burst, and that makes all the difference. So it's quite good. Mihail. Oh man. This class, you are literally just iframed all the time. If it had, if it was like top half on the actual damage charts, like it would be above S. Like it would be like SSS. But fortunately, its damage is a little lackluster, so I'll put it here. But this class is so good. Like this doesn't do it justice. But okay, you know what? I'm not. These aren't ordered, but I'll put it here anyway. Okay, next we have Night Lord. Okay, undisputed best verse in the game. Absolutely ridiculous. So it's like completely uncontested. So if we're doing like, if just like a burst tier list, like Night Lord wouldn't even be on the same page. But unfortunately, it is. It's got no iframe. Survivability is pretty bad. Like I've heard from a lot of Night Lords that I've actually just spectated a lot of Night Lords and they just seemingly die for like no reason. So, well, at least from my perspective, there's no reason. But you know, maybe it is a reason. This class needs buffs. So, put it around here, like mid tier. I think that's alright. Yeah, it's just like they have a heavy trade-off for having their ridiculous burst. Yeah. Next we have Nightwalker. Nightwalker's like Night Lord, but it sort of the same sort as Mercedes. Like it has 3 shadow partners during its burst. It actually has an iframe. So yeah. There's that. And that again that makes all the difference. So goes there. Paladin. I touched on this earlier, but yeah, first of all, its survivability is really good, even off of Sacro. On Sacro, you are basically doing your dojo dummy DPS. Yeah, that's not much needs to be said about that. Like, yeah, there you go. Next we have Shad. Again, have you ever heard of a thief without a burst? Because Shad suffers an even worse fate than DB. And you have to weave, so you're basically playing Kanna, Blaster, Cadena, but on a thief. Like, imagine that stuff, but instead of like damage reduction like Blaster or healing like Kanna, you're in like Last Resort. You take even more damage. But I guess the same thing with Cadena too, but the thing is, this class actually does have like pretty high consistent damage, and they get super stance while they're doing their attacking like pretty much permanently, and they have Dark Sight, just like Cadena. Like, their Dark Sight's actually better. Their damage is just a bit lower, so put them like slightly higher than those two. Put them around there. But yeah, they definitely need more of a burst. Thunderbreaker. Well, Buck is an S, and Thunderbreaker is basically Buck without the plot armor, but instead you have sharks. So yeah, there you go. Mobility pretty good too. So yeah. Kinesis. Alright, well, Kinesis is quite good. Its theoretical damage is quite high. Like, actually very high, but I won't put it in S. I'll put it probably around here. Put it here, because there's a lot of setup and upkeep that you need to deal with. But yeah, that's pretty much what its downside is. But I mean, damage is high, it looks really cool. So yeah, there you go. Xenon. Okay, so Xenon, also one of the best bursts in the game, but very lackluster off of burst. Its burst is not okay. Again, Nightlord is not comparable, but Xenon is, at least they're an iframe during their burst, which is really good, but they hit like a wet noodle off of burst, like phantom tier pretty much. It's a little better because they're affected by attack speed, but yeah. Yeah. Well, that concludes the tier list, and yeah, again, this is all just opinion. Oh, wait a second. Wait. I had my list flipped upside down. Oh, hold on a second. Shit. Oh. Okay, there we go. Well, yeah. I think this looks about right. Yeah, thanks for watching.